The Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Tennessee Titans. My absolute favorite game of the week.
Beautiful game.
Yeah, and I was fortunate. I actually had the Pittsburgh Steelers versus Cleveland Browns on my primary TV, so I was watching them with the sound on. I watched the two other games on the side without the sound and all that. But I take 3 live games in at a time, and this is the first time I've watched Pittsburgh live in a while. I've gone back and caught up on games and stuff. Their defense, the defense finally showed up.
Yeah, right.
We knew that they had. It's not like they lost anybody. They went 8-6 last year without Roethlisberger. I mean, this defense is strong. They just haven't been showing it. Tennessee Titans, I would say the same is true, except I haven't seen the Tennessee Titans defense show up yet. Like their offense is balling.
They've been in a little bit of shootouts. They had to come from behind last week, but
which shows character, which I don't mind at all. Because
I don't mind it all either. You got to win a tough one sometimes.
Like they went up to Houston. Like we've seen this for decades, Brad. A team goes up, they were handling Houston, then Houston comes back, it takes the lead and completely has the momentum. And then what happens is like Tannehill, by the way, towards the end of the game, not the end of the game, he made a rare mistake for Tannehill. In that he had a wide open, it should have been a crossing route, but Tannehill basically threw it as a seam route or a post, and it goes up the middle of the field. If Tannehill leads him out as a crossing route, that's a touchdown. Throws an interception, and you're like, oh, that's a backbreaker. And then what do? It doesn't matter. They come down and score anyway.
Right.
And
that's
I think
coaching right there, man.
It is, man, and it's character. And I love this. And I say this about Baltimore, and I say this about Cleveland. And there are a few other teams this year where I'll say this about Chicago. These teams that can run the ball, and they're so good running the ball, like Tennessee. And I always say, okay, well, what happens when the run game doesn't work?
Yeah.
Because what's Pittsburgh going to do, man? Yeah. Pittsburgh's going to come in, and they're going to say, hey, and what other teams have been doing, they're going to come say, hey, Tannehill, we're going to make Tannehill beat us.
Well,
and we're going to take Henry away.
But, what's his name there? Derrick Henry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's phenomenal. So even though they go in there with that theory, who knows if it'll work? But I get your point. I do. And let me just say one thing before we get along too much. I said that the Browns would have the worst game of their season.
You did?
Yes. And they got waxed. So both their losses have been by, 28 points each. And both of those losses were against upper caliber teams.
You're right. To close up the point I was going to make about Derrick Henry, okay, so if Pittsburgh shuts Derrick Henry down, like Pittsburgh shut down Kareem Hunt in the running attack, right? That's what Tennessee wants to do. They want to run the ball first. If they do that, Tannehill, unlike Baker Mayfield, is good enough to say, screw it, I'm just going to throw up 35 points. It's rare. It's rare this year in the NFL where you can win a game ground and pound and you can win a game through the air. And I'll say this, we're going to talk about the Vegas Raiders in a bit. I've said last year these two teams are similar, and my feeling was that Tennessee was a year ahead of the Vegas Raiders, and I still feel that way. I like the Raiders, as you know, Brad. I've been talking about them for weeks. The Raiders like to run the ball. Jacobs isn't as good as Derrick Henry, in my opinion, but still very good.
Sure.
Carr isn't as good as Ryan Tannehill, in my opinion. And
how about this? I don't know if Ryan Tannehill gets any credit because
he doesn't.
He didn't play that well in Miami, right? And so I don't know. Can you blame him?
I kind of disagree. I think that's the narrative. I'm not disagreeing with that narrative.
With the narrative, correct.
But I think he played pretty damn well, considering, first of all, he had Adam Gase, who was a dumpster fire with the Jets.
Totally.
And Adam Gase, what did he do? Like, we see how big of a star Devontae Parker is for the Miami Dolphins now. Buries him. Kenyon Drake, he's a star for the Arizona Cardinals now. Buries him on the depth chart. Trades him because he has no value. Adam Gase can't get along with stars. And somehow, in spite of that, Ryan Tannehill, who I think he was a top 10 draft pick, which I forgot about until somebody just mentioned it. I know he's a first rounder, but I didn't realize he was that high. Drafted ahead of Russell Wilson, by the way. He just doesn't get any credit, and I think he has the Miami stink on him.
He does.
And by the way, the Miami Dolphins still have the Miami Dolphins stink on them, and they're a pretty damn good team.
And also I don't think what helps is they're in Tennessee, and they're in the division with the Jaguars, and it's not a big market, and not that big market matters because obviously Green Bay is not the biggest market, but they don't have a whole lot of, I don't know, the tradition. So to speak.
I think teams that play in the SEC conference country tend to deal with that a little bit.
I would agree.
Even like the Atlanta Falcons, when they had their Super Bowl run, 4 years, whenever it was at this point. I think the people there still prefer the Georgia Bulldogs And Tennessee, you got the Tennessee Vols, who haven't been really relevant in a while. I think they might be better this year. I don't follow college too closely, but I think it's some of that. You know how Florida is with their sports teams. Nobody ever shows up to games. That's not the case with Tennessee. I mean, they like their Titans, don't get me wrong. But I think they suffer from a little bit of that. It's almost like it's an NFL team, but it's college football country. So maybe it's some of that. But you're right. I mean, the NFL largely has ignored the Titans really since Steve McNair left.
Right.
And this team is dirty, man. I like the way they play. And what I like about them, I mentioned before, the character to come back when they're losing. And the defense still has room for improvement. This whole team can get better once this defense kind of gets rolling here. But let's talk about Pittsburgh for a while.
Okay.
So the Pittsburgh Steelers, dude, like they shut down the Cleveland run. And, it was predictable that what Pittsburgh was going to do. They're going to say, okay, we're going to double cover Odell Beckham and we're going to shut down the run. And let's see if Baker Mayfield can carve us up.
Right.
That's exactly what Pittsburgh did.
Anybody up?
Yeah, we predicted
not a bad
it.
Strategy. Does Baker ever carve anybody up? No. Has he ever had one of those days?
No,
I haven't seen it.
No, but Ryan Tannehill. Although I would say that if you take the Cleveland fans and the Tennessee Titans fans out of it. If you would ask fans of the other 30 teams who's better, Baker Mayfield or Ryan Tannehill, I think Tannehill at this point, based on what he's doing this year, would win that. But I think it would be closer from the other 30 teams. Now, Tennessee Titans fans are going to be like, you're effing crazy. And I agree with the Tennessee Titans fans. There's no comparison in my mind.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, Baker Mayfield, number one pick, he's polarizing, he gets the hype. But Baker Mayfield is not fit to play that kind of game.
Right.
And I think Pittsburgh will do a nice job against the run. I think Derrick Henry's going to have a tougher day. And I think Vrabel's, I love that Vrabel's just patient, and and Arthur Smith is.
I know. I love their style.
Arthur Smith to me is the best offensive coordinator in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And
back to Cleveland, I think that the games that they have won, Baker has thrown less than something like 20 times. I don't know the exact number, and I'm not saying that's 100% factual, but I'd like to believe it's something close to that. Right.
You see the same thing with the Rams, by the way, and Jared Goff. When Jared Goff throws the ball less than they run it, they win. They're like, their winning percentage is like 90%.
Yeah, that's surprising right there, because I don't put him in the same category, but maybe we start doing that. Who knows?
I think Goff is definitely cut above, but I would take Tannehill over Goff. I honestly would. And Rams fans would say you're effing crazy, and Tennessee Titans fans I think would be nodding their heads yes, and maybe Pittsburgh Steelers fans watching this would say I'm crazy. But look,
and that's interesting because Goff has the resume, right? Because he's been a part of the Rams a couple years ago were so flashy and so innovative, and they went to the Super Bowl even though they laid an egg. Mm-hmm. Goff has been in the big lights. Tannehill hasn't been there yet, so it's like a little bit of a resume / popularity contest, so to speak.
Yeah, but if I had to pick one to win a game, let me say this: if you traded quarterbacks, I always like to play this game, right? I used to play this game with the Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady debate. You trade quarterbacks, you put Brady on the Colts, you put Manning on the New England Patriots. Is either team getting worse? Is either team getting better? I've always argued that if you compare Peyton Manning, the greatest quarterback mind of all time, with the greatest football mind of all time in Bill Belichick, they win more Super Bowls. I feel that way, but, I get it. I look like a moron now saying it because of how many Super Bowls Brady's won.
Well, it's not the most moronic thing anyone's ever said, but it is, it is conjecture. Who knows, right?
Who knows? That's the thing. But let me say this. If the Rams traded Goff to the Titans for Ryan Tannehill, I believe the Rams get better. I believe the Titans get worse.
Yeah, right.
I do.
I'm with you on that. I agree.
Tannehill just, to me, has what I like to say, like maybe a little bit of dog in him. And, people forget that when he came out of college, I think he only had one season as a starting quarterback, maybe two. I can't remember, but he's a converted wide receiver.
Interesting.
He's just been getting better since he's been in the league.
There's something to be said for a quarterback that – you haven't played in the best system, and you weren't on the best team in college, and you weren't always the guy, and you kind of had to fight your way into being excellent. Yeah. And that creates that dog, I think. And I think the problem with Baker Mayfield is he is the exact opposite. I mean, I can't say with any certainty, but I think he was always the guy since high school.
I disagree with that because he when he went to college, he had to basically walk on two different teams and work his way into starter. So
okay, then I stand corrected.
Yeah, so he does have it, but I agree Tannehill's a cut above. And I feel like we've been ignoring Pittsburgh here. So let me throw this at you. Okay. James Conner looked fantastic.
Right,
fantastic. against Cleveland. He was running with power. I mean, you can tell when James Conner's nicked up and a little injured and when he's feeling good, and he's feeling good. Pittsburgh, Chase Claypool, holy crap. I mean, he still hasn't even begun to scratch the surface of what he can do. He's a matchup nightmare. Then they also have Diontae Johnson, James Washington, JuJu Smith-Schuster, Ben Roethlisberger back. As I mentioned, they were 8-6 last year, fighting for a playoff seed along with these Titans who ended up making that run last year without Ben Roethlisberger. You called them to be in the Super Bowl before the season. I called them to be in the AFC Championship. And the way our predictions worked out, we predicted matchups in the playoffs. So I like the matchups to get them to the AFC Championship. We both like Pittsburgh better than Baltimore this year because the offense is more mature and Ben Roethlisberger's. Look, if the Pittsburgh goes down by 20 points, Pittsburgh can come back and close that gap. That's what we like to see, right? That's what I like to see from Tennessee. They've proven a couple times this year. Pittsburgh can win a game 17-14 in January if they have to with that defense. I believe that Tennessee, although they haven't shown that this season, I believe they can do that as well. To me, Pittsburgh and Tennessee, I would still, when the playoffs start, if the playoffs started today, I know Kansas City hasn't been playing really great on both sides of the ball. I would still rank Kansas City 1 as a better, right, as a handicapper. And then I would have Pittsburgh and Tennessee, man, right there. And I think home field advantage is giant, and this game is giant for home field advantage. Yeah,
this is a big one. This is the game of the week. I love this. I love the matchup. The Pittsburgh defense is just flying around, and whatever they got going on with wide receivers over there, man, I wish they could share it with some other teams.
I know
they know what's up.
They do.
Wow.
I love this game, and I'll say this. So this game was delayed from a couple weeks ago. We talked about this before, and we were excited when we first talked about it. I'm even more excited now. Both teams undefeated here. And what I said, I think Bovada had the line at that point at around 3. I think it was Tennessee plus 3. And I said, look, I'm going to take, or maybe even it was Pittsburgh, but whatever it was, I said, these teams are so evenly matched, I'm going to take the points, and I'm just going to go with it. Now the line is Pittsburgh minus 1.5 at Tennessee, Brad. Who do you have in this game?
Pittsburgh is favored by 1.5 at Tennessee.
Yep.
You know what? I know Pittsburgh is my pick for the Super Bowl, but that doesn't mean they're going to win every game, and I think that they lose this one. I think Tennessee takes it.
So I think, based on what I saw last week, here's the way I'm dealing with it. I'm going to take Pittsburgh. I'll tell you why. Pittsburgh has shown me 60 minutes of football on both sides of the ball this season, right? They've done it offensively, and they've done it defensively. So I think Pittsburgh's defense is ahead of Tennessee's defense right now. That's not to say that's going to be the case in January when the playoffs start. Tennessee, I think it's a good thing that there's room for improvement. Yeah. People have been doubting Tennessee. I am not one of those people, Brad. You are not one of those people. We're high on Tennessee. So Tennessee fans watching this, I don't want to hear the hate because I've had Tennessee as a top 5, top 6 team in the league since before the season. I'm a believer in them, but I'm a believer in Pittsburgh as well. I'm going to take Pittsburgh. I think it's a field goal game. I think Pittsburgh covers the spread. But look, it would not shock me if Tennessee comes out and balls and wins this game by 10, and I'd be happy if that happened. And it would not shock.
When is that game, Sean?
When is it?
Yeah.
Afternoon game. Like early game.
Oh, 1 o'clock game?
1 o'clock
Sunday?
game.
Okay.
So, primary TV. I can't wait to watch this game. And by the way, I'm not going to actually bet on this because, like I said, nothing would surprise me. I cannot wait to watch this game. It's going to be awesome.
I would not bet on that one either.
Yeah. Next game on the list we're going to talk about here, the